Hello everybody. Today I can evaluate fractional exponents by putting them in a radical and using the power over the root. This is an intermediary lesson. In order to do this lesson, you need to know how to do exponent rules and negative exponents. And you're going to need this lesson in order to do given radicals, which comes next. Everything right now is building on top of each other. So basically what you need to know is that radicals are fractional exponents. Last class, we said that negative exponents are fractions, fractional exponents are radicals. So whenever you see a fractional exponent, we make a radical. Whenever we see a negative exponent, again from last class, you make a fraction. Whenever you see a fractional exponent, we make a radical. Whatever's being raised to the power goes inside the radical. Now the fraction itself is the power over the root. So the power is what this is being raised to, and the root is what goes outside the radical. Now from here, we evaluate what we have written here. I like to always do the root first. So I'm going to start by doing the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5. Raise that to the first power. 5 to the first power is 5. Now, you can use a calculator if you need to. You can type in the square root of 25. And then, so let's just get that up here. You can do the square root of 25. And then raise that to the first power. Ideally, this lesson, you're going to do mentally without a calculator. But you can use the calculator if you need to. 8 to the 1/3 power. I see a fractional exponent, so I make a radical. The fraction is always the power over the root. So the power is 1, and the root is 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the cubed root of 8. Again, ideally, you're doing this mentally. Ideally, you know what number times itself 3 times gives you 8. If you don't, to type cubed root in, I hit math, option 4. That is cubed root 8. The cubed root of 8 is 2. Then I'm taking 2 and I'm raising it to the first power, which is 2. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Let's take a look at number 4. I see a fractional exponent. Radicals are fractional exponents. It's always the power over the root. So the power is 3 and the root is 2. So I always start with the root. You could do the power first and then the root. I find it easier to do the root first. You deal with smaller numbers. The square root of 4 is 2. I'm taking that answer and I'm raising it to the third power. 2 to the third power is 8. I want you to try number 5 on your own right now. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Fractional exponents are radicals. So I make a radical. I put the 27 inside. It's always the power over the root. The root goes outside. The power goes inside. Now I'm going to start by evaluating the root. The cube root of 27 is 3. And again, if you don't know that, we can go to our calculator, type in math 4. Cube root of 27 is 3. 3 to the second power. Again, you can use the calculator for that too if you need to, but ideally this whole thing you're able to do without the calculator. 3 squared is 9, so your answer is 9. All right, let's just do maybe one more of this set together. Let's try number 8. I see a fractional exponent. Radicals are fractional exponents. So I'm going to make a radical. I'm going to put the 81 inside. It's always the power over the root. The power is what it's being raised to. The root goes outside. Now, the 4th root of 81, again, ideally, it would be nice for you to be able to do this mentally. However, this one's a little bit more challenging. So, how do I type in the 4th root of 81? To type in a root other than a square root and a cubed root. So for square root, I just hit second radical. For cubed root, we said we hit math option 4. For any other root, start by typing the root, in this case 4. Then I'm going to hit math option 5. It's like a little X outside of the radical. That's how I would type any root in. 81, 3. I'm then taking that 3 and I'm raising it to the third power. Again, you can use the calculator if you need to. 3 to the third power is 27. Now, I guess this is a good time to mention, in fact, you know what? Why don't you try one more on your own? Why don't you try number 9 on your own right now? I'll give you about 20 seconds to do that. If you need more time, feel free to pause. Radicals are fractional exponents. So I'm going to make a radical. Whatever's being raised to the power goes inside. Power over the root. So the power is 3. The root is 2. I always start with the root. The square root of 16 is 4. I'm going to take that answer, raise it to the third power. Again, use a calculator if you need to. 64. 64 would be your answer. Now I'm going to show you something that I did not want to show you at the beginning of the problem, at the beginning of the lesson, for a good reason. I could just type this problem into the calculator from the very beginning and get an answer. If I want to do 16 to the power of 3 over 2, 16 to the power of 3 over 2, and it's going to give me my answer. So, Mr. Schlansky, why couldn't I have done this entire time? Because you're going to see in the next problems that are coming, you need to be able to understand how to do it by hand. So if you just type it right into the calculator, you're not going to have the understanding that you're going to need to be able to do the next set of problems. And again, it is important to understand how to be able to do this mentally. So let's just take a look at the next set of problems now. What did I do here? All right, the next set of problems starts at number 13. And this is a matter of just identifying what's being risen to the power. So I see a fractional exponent, therefore I'm going to make a radical. The question is, what goes inside the radical? Well, what's being raised to the power? Since there's no parentheses, only the x is being raised to the power of 1/3. So x is what goes inside the radical. The power is 1. The root is 3. That 5 is not being raised to the power, so that comes in front. So your answer would just be 5 cubed root of x. Pay a close attention to what's being raised to the power. Whatever's being raised to the power is what goes inside the radical. In number 14, I have parentheses now. So again, I see a fractional exponent, so I'm going to make a radical. Since the 5x is what's being raised to the fractional power, the 5x goes inside. The power is 1. I don't have to write the 1, but I can. The root is 3. So my answer would be the cubed root of 5x. try number 15 on your own right now. If you need more time, feel free to pause. I see a fractional exponent, so I make a radical because radicals are fractional exponents. Whatever is being raised to the power is what goes inside the radical. The fractional exponent is always the power over the root. So the power is 3 and the root is 2. Again, only that x is being raised to the power since there's no parentheses around the 27. So the 27 stays up front. So your answer, I don't have to write that 2 outside as the root because a regular square root has an index or a root of 2. That would be your answer. Which brings us to these questions. I think it's time for our song. Is it time for our song? Yeah, I can't teach you now. I just gave it to you. So here's our song to help us stay structured. And again, I said that this builds on yesterday's lesson, the previous lessons. Radicals are fractional exponents. Get rid of parentheses. Negative exponents are fractions. And then we need to clean it up. And that could mean a few things. It could mean multiply, divide, or put it back into a radical. So let's go to Schlansky.com. Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to playlists. Let's go to Common Core Algebra 2 songs. And let's go to exponents.
Radicals are fractional exponents. Get rid of parentheses. Negative exponents are fractions. Clean it up and see.
Say that one more time.
Radicals are fractional exponents. Get rid of parentheses. Negative exponents are fractions. Clean it up and see.
So we're not going to use the first line too much here. That's going to be in the next lesson when we're given radicals. But if you see radicals, our first step is to rewrite radicals as fractional exponents. Then we get rid of parentheses by giving that whatever's outside the parentheses to everything inside. Negative exponents are fractions. Move whatever's being raised to the negative power. And then we clean it up. That could be multiply, add the exponents, divide, subtract the exponents, or put it back into a radical based on radicals are fractional exponents. Radicals are fractional exponents. Do I see a radical here? No. Get rid of parentheses. Yes, I see parentheses, so that 1/3 power goes to everything inside, and that goes back to the first lesson in this unit, exponent rules. When I'm raising a power to a power, I multiply the powers. So -6 times 1/3 is -2. And 5 times 1/3 is 5/3. Negative exponents are fractions. Because I see a negative exponent, I make a fraction. Whatever's being raised to a negative power moves. 8 is not being raised to a negative power, so it stays. X is being raised to a negative power, so it moves to the bottom and becomes positive. Y is not being raised to a negative power, so it stays. Clean it up. So the only thing I can clean up here is 8 to the 1/3 power. Ideally, you can do that mentally at this point. I can do it off to the side. Radicals are fractional exponents. It's the power over the root. The power is 1. The root is 3. The cubed root of 8 is 2. To the first power is 2. 2y to the 5/3 over x squared. And listen, at this point, if you're looking at this, you're like, huh? After completing what we've done so far, you can always go to your calculator and type in 8 to the power of 1/3 and get your answer. Radicals are fractional exponents. No radicals. Get rid of parentheses. Give that exponent to everything inside. So it becomes 25 to the 3/2 power. 8 to the negative 8 times 3 is negative 24 over 2 is negative 12. 7 times 3 is 21 over 2 is 21 over 2. Negative exponents are fractions. Is 25 being raised to the negative power? No. Is x being raised to the negative power? Yes, so it moves. Is y being raised to the negative power? No, so it stays. Clean it up, MD. MD means multiply, divide, but in this case, we're putting it back into a radical. 25 to the 3/2. Again, ideally, you can do that mentally at this point. You can put the whole thing into the calculator, or you can kind of do what I'm doing right now, which is the in-between. The square root of 25 is 5 to the 3rd is 125. So 125 y to the 21 over 2 over x to the 12th, and that's your answer. Try number 19 on your own. I'm going to ask you to pause it. Try number 19 on your own, and then unpause. Okay, now that you tried 19 on your own, radicals are fractional exponents. Do I see a radical? No. Get rid of parentheses. Yes, I have to get rid of parentheses, so everything inside gets that power. 27 to the negative 1/3. X, when I'm raising a power to a power, I multiply the powers. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3, over 3 is 1. 2 times negative 1/3, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, over 3 is 3. Now that I'm done with that step, negative exponents are fractions. I make a fraction. Whatever's being raised to the negative power moves. If it's being raised to the positive power, it stays. 27 is being raised to the negative power, so it moves to the bottom. X is not being raised to a negative power, so it stays. And I can just drop that 1 off. Y is being raised to a negative power, so it moves to the bottom and becomes positive. Clean it up, MZ. The only thing I can clean up here is my 27 to the 1/3 power. Again, ideally, you can do that mentally, but if not, it's the power over the root. The cubed root of 27 is 3, to the first is 3. So my final answer is x over 3y to the 2/3. All right, let's see what else I got here. Let's maybe just go over one more together. Let's take a look at 20. Why don't you try it on your own first, then I'll go over it, and then I'll have you practice the rest of the class. So try number 20 on your own, pause, unpause when you're ready. Okay, now that you tried number 20 on your own, radicals are fractional exponents. No radicals. Get rid of parentheses. Everything inside gets it. So it's going to be 16 to the 5 over 2. X to the, when you're raising a power to a power, you multiply your powers. 3 times 5 is 15. Over 2 is 15 over 2. Y to the negative 6. Again, when you're raising a power to a power, you're multiplying the powers. Negative 6 and 5 is negative 30. Over 2 is negative 15. And finally, for the z on the bottom, negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. over 2 is negative 10. Negative exponents are fractions. Is 16 being raised to the negative power? No, so it stays. Is x being raised to the negative power? No, so it stays. Is y being raised to the negative power? Yes, so it moves. Is z on the bottom being raised to the negative power? Yes, so it moves. So if it's on bottom, it moves to the top. Clean it up, MZ. The only thing to clean up here is that. Again, ideally you can do that mentally, although this one's a little bit harder. Power over the root. P over R for power over root. I did that backwards. That's 5. That's 2. The square root of 16 is 4. 4 to the 5th power. Well, yeah, I guess that is one you might want to use your calculator for. 4 to the power of 5 is 1024. And again, I could have typed in 16 to the power of 5 over 2. So just know yourself. Know what's going to be best for you at this point. I'd rather you be able to do it by hand. There's going to be questions where you're going to have to explain how you're getting your answers. You'll see that in a couple of lessons. But, if that's not working out for you, you can type it into the calculator. 1024, x to the 15 over 2, z to the 10th over y to the 15. So, in order to solve these exponents problems, we're going to follow this list of steps. Radicals are fractional exponents. Get rid of the radicals first by making them fractional exponents. We did not do that in this lesson. We're going to do that in the next lesson. Get rid of parentheses. That's what we did in a couple of lessons ago. Whatever's outside the parentheses, everything inside gets. Negative exponents are fractions. When you see a negative exponent, make a fraction. Whatever's being raised to the negative power moves. And again, we did that in the previous lesson. And then you're cleaning it up. You're multiplying, you're dividing, or you're evaluating using a radical. The radical part we talked about today, multiplying and dividing, we did a couple lessons ago. So this set of lessons, it's building, building, building. So you have to go back to exponent rules, then negative exponents, then given fractional exponents. After this is given radicals. That's the end of the sequence. And there will be one more lesson after that where we're going to practice and put it all together. Your classwork/homework is to practice. Very important lesson here, so please make sure you do this. Do not even try to go on to the next one before you do this. And I hope everyone has a great day.